Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This evening I'm going to be doing another movie review for you all. This movie is an action film from Taiwan, Taiwanese language English subs, released in the year 2023, directed by Ching-Po Wong, and this film is called The Pig, the Snake and the Pigeon. So The Pig, the Snake and the Pigeon is about a criminal. He wants to be public enemy number one. He wants to be the most famous criminal in all of Taiwan. In order to do that, he's going to knock off the criminals that are above him. And so while he's going on this quest to get what he wants, he comes across an event that forces him to look at himself as a person, and he doesn't like what he sees. And so he's going to try and turn his life around for the better, but he may have passed the point of no return. So whether or not he gets his fame is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on The Pig, the Snake and the Pigeon. Taiwan is definitely the most exciting up-and-comer as far as Asian cinema is concerned. It's definitely a new venture for me. I really wasn't too familiar with Taiwanese cinema, but ever since watching the horror film The Sickness, I was really sold. Now The Sickness was a zombie virus kind of film, but what I loved about it was that it was something I hadn't seen before. It took on that virus in a way that was very creative, and it stood it and made a shadow of its own. And so having a tired subgenre to come across a film like The Sickness, I thought I definitely have to go and check more Taiwanese films out. And so the other Taiwanese movies that I checked out recently haven't been as good as The Sickness, but they've still been exciting enough to really make me go out there and watch the next Taiwanese movie that comes along. And so after watching The Pig, the Snake and the Pigeon, I will say that this is yet another movie that you could add to the pile of really, really impressive experiences. This is a film that I thought was absolutely balls to the wall crazy. It's unhinged. It's a very dark, humorous film. There are things that you're laughing at that you really shouldn't be. And it was a surprisingly character-driven film as well. And so that's something that I wasn't expecting. So this is a creative action film in a genre that has definitely, been flogged to death. Basically, you've seen one, you've seen them all, it's all been regurgitated, it's all the same, but then this movie comes along and it stands out from the rest of the pack. And this is something that Taiwan manages to do quite a bit, is that they're creating something within a very tight genre, and just when you think you've seen it all, they really put the cat amongst the pigeons, and nothing is basically as it seems. And this is what creates unpredictability. And you want to go into a film with unpredictability, because if you don't have any control, it's like a roller coaster. You're going on the ride, and fortunately The Pig, the Snake and the Pigeon was definitely a ride that I would highly recommend. And so the action set piece is absolutely phenomenal. The choreography was absolutely second to none. I thought it was a very violent film. I thought a very funny film. And then at the halfway stage, you get more of an insight into this main character. And so the film knows exactly what it wants to be. It wants to be a fun movie, but it does give you a little bit more insight into this main character that gives it more of a three-dimensional experience. And so it's not just that cheap film where it's just relying on visuals and explosions. It's actually a movie that's daring you to show a lighter side of a really dark and psychotic criminal. And so although it's a very caricature world that Ching-Po Wong actually creates, I still thought as though there was a sense of realism within this caricature world that you could access. And so that's something that I really, really liked. And at the end of the film, I actually started rooting for this guy. I actually wanted him to get what he actually desired, even though he was a complete psychopath. And so you realise this is what the director's managed to do. He's managed to create that relatability to a psychotic individual, and before you know, you're actually befriended this man. And this is the darkly sort of comic experience that you get, is that you feel guilty for liking this guy, you feel guilty for condoning what's going on, but it's violence in a very cathartic way. And so it does have that caricature entertainment, but at the same time, as I said, that strange captivating feeling that this is a guy that you could befriend, this is a guy that you've known, and that guy that you want to actually see succeed, even though he's doing despicable things. And so that was absolutely fantastic. The soundtrack I thought was very good, and I thought the ending was absolutely phenomenal. The movie does take a different approach in the second half, but when you actually see what happens at the end, it all ties together in a really, really rewarding way. There's one scene, I'm not going to give anything away, but it's a musical sort of scene, and that was crazy. One of the most insane finishes to a film that I've seen, and I absolutely loved it. And so if it sounds like your kind of thing, you're tired of the action genre just being the same old, then this is a film I would highly recommend. It's just a clear indication of how good Taiwan is as far as cinema is concerned, and it's right up there, and I'm hoping it gets to the level of South Korea and Japan. So Taiwan, definitely a country to look out for. If I have issues with this movie, it's not a massive issue, because it does tie up all the loose ends by the time the movie finishes, but I thought the second half had a completely different pacing to it, and it felt like a different film. So you have this action set piece, really good choreography, balls to the wall crazy, really, really dark. Then all of a sudden it stops, and then it goes down a different path, and this is where we get some indication as to what this character is all about, and he starts to second guess what he's doing, and I like that. And at the end of the film, I just thought as though it really worked, but it just feels like a different film. The pacing is completely different. It just felt like more of a character study than it did an action film. Yes, it was still funny, but it just really laid off the action. And so you've got frenetic pace, frenetic pace, frenetic pace, and then all of a sudden, bang, you had this drama. And I felt as though, although it didn't derail the experience, I felt as though it was a different film. And so that was a very minor criticism of what was just, as I said, an incredibly entertaining action film. Action-wise, it's absolutely fantastic. It's very violent. Some of the effects are actually fantastic, but it always stays true to the caricature nature that it wants, and it never derails its experience, because you do get that emotional insight into a real character, but it doesn't go into melodrama. It doesn't force feed that feeling of emotion. It always knows what it wants to be. So it's not taking itself too seriously. I always felt as though I was on board for the ride, and I was really happy at what I got by the end. So if there's, as I said, little issue is that the pacing in the second half was a little bit slower than the first, and so it felt a little bit disjointed. But pushing that aside, definitely a movie I'd highly recommend if you are into this kind of thing. The story is absolutely fantastic. It's very unpredictable, very suspenseful because of the fact you don't know what's going on, and by the time it ties up all the loose ends, you feel as though you've seen something completely different. So sounds like your kind of thing. Go out there and see it. I'm going to give this film 4 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next week watching movies, and I'll see you later.